I'm the principal plant operator here at the Conklingville Dam.
How long have you been employed here, sir?
This will be my 20th year.
A little bit about where we are in relation to, the Sacandaga Reservoir. Where are we right now? What is this?
You're at the outlet of the Sacandaga Reservoir, or as it's called now, the Great Sacandaga Lake.
So interesting you mentioned reservoir versus lake. Most people know this as the lake, but technically this is a reservoir, right?
Yes, it is.
So what's the difference? Why would you call it a reservoir?
Its original intent is for flood control and augmentation of downstream, and it will vary in height approximately 20 feet in a year. So where lakes generally are a foot or less, I think. Like this below us is Stewart's Pond. That never really moves more than a foot or so during the course of a year. They keep that pretty steady.
What's a typical day at work like for you? Start us off in a day in your work life. What do you do when you first come to work? Is this where you usually come to work?
Yeah.
How does it go for you?
This is where I report here, and it starts off with a lot of monitoring that we do, and we go out here in the field and measure the piezometer wells and do a physical walk of the toe, the upstream sides. This facility, we go out on the spillway. We've just had more piezometers actually drilled into the spillway out there, so we're reading them now. Any leakage areas that come through the spillway, we monitor those. The weather readings every day, precipitation, temperatures, snowpack. We just get done. This week was actually our last snow survey. Obviously, we don't have much to do this week for that, but we do keep that all winter long. Then it's all reported and logged in and sent to the engineers to put in the records there.
How do you guys control the release of the water here on your side? Is it by computer, or do you actually have to come here and how do you do it?
This is all done by hand. This is there's 3 dowel valves that are here underneath this building. They're 3 8-foot penstocks tubes. And down below is the valve gallery where we climb down in there, and we have people on top, and our whole crew here, and we get everything set up. And people upstairs throw the power, turn it on for us, and we turn it on and crack the valves by hand open down there, and there's big motors that open them up. And when needed, like now with the high water situation, we open them up as needed.
Okay.
For augmentation if there's problems with EJ West or we need to add to what they're releasing. We do that. We test them often.
Now you talked earlier about some of the measuring equipment that's here. I think was it a piezometer? Is that what?
Piezometers, yes. Piezometers are wells that are drilled out here in the dam. They're drilled at given heights and depths, obviously, in the dam. And they keep track of water pressure, basically, that's flowing through the dam, believe it or not. A few of them are set up with transducers that monitor it, that go into a Sutron system that can be monitored through the internet with our engineers. So if a problem does arise with those certain ones, they get an alarm, I get called to come check, and then we do an entire inspection of a facility if something comes up at a odd number.
Say, for example, a few days ago when things were really high down here and it was coming over the spillway, quite a bit of water coming over the spillway. Am I saying it right, the spillway?
Yep, exactly.
The water that was going over the spillway opposed to what is coming out down there that's being released by you guys, you're releasing a lot more than what spills over, or what would you, how would you?
We are now. Right now, these at this level are approximately releasing 2,400 cubic feet a second per valve.
Sunday I come up and I went and looked down that way, and I'd never been down that way before, and I kind of followed the river down to where it meets the Hudson eventually. I saw like a warning system on the side of the road. What's that all about? Is that part of you guys, or is that part of the power? Right
now that's all Brookfield's system there that they put in. It's a warning system to let people know that they're turning on, they're going to release water from the Stewart's Dam facility down the Sacandaga River. So I said, this is the Sacandaga Lake, which flows into Stewart's Pond, which then flows into the Sacandaga River, which empties into the Hudson. So when they shut down, it never goes below 350 cubic feet a second down the Sacandaga River. They have a low flow unit at Stewart's that they always run.
They're always running.
And that was put in there, so that goes down through, but it'll look like it's off. It like a dry creek bed almost, large, obviously. But when they do release, it rises very rapidly. So for safety purposes, they're loudspeakers, they got lights, sirens, and then there's actual voices that come across warning you of fast rising waters to remove yourself from the river.
So people are out there like in a boat or fishing?
Fishing, usually out there on foot or fishing.
Is this off limits to like boats, this section here? Like, does anybody ever canoe or anything out here? Or?
We get some that come up like that. We try. There's a section of buoys way down there, kind of hard to see today.
Oh, I see.
They're the orange balls down there.
We'll follow you and have you take us along wherever we're allowed to go with you.
Okay, we can go down into the control house there.
About this photograph that you're holding, what's the difference here in this section, the difference over here? I mean, we're looking at some gates or something here. What is all this stuff?
That particular spot there is just the walkway that goes up over the top of the spillway that's out here. This part was originally put in as a log sluice.
Okay.
When they originally built the dam, they were going to try, because this was a huge part of the logging industry at the time, was the river.
Sure.
It sent everything down. So it was going to be made to release logs through there, but it never really got used, so they ended up filling it full of concrete. This was the first real overtopping of the dam back in 1983, and C.D. Perry was doing a rehab job on there, and they lost a lot of tools and equipment and stuff when it overtopped.
What is this section over here versus this section? Is there like there's certainly probably a function here, right? This has a function. Do you have like gates in here? Do you open this? What is this?
Nope, you'll be able to see it right out here through the windows and everything. It's just basically a walkway that they put up over the top of the spillway. The whole thing is the actual spillway. It's a 400-foot weir spillway, and there's columns that they put up and where the walkway. It does look like it's two gates in there.
Yeah, it does.
No, there's no. It's just a walkway over the top of the actual spillway.
And the only time this functions as an actual spillway is when you're at like 772 or so. Is that
771 is the crest of the spillway.
Okay.
So anything over that, it will start spilling over.
And to see water coming up over this, like all the people lately, like this past couple of weeks, people come up and taking pictures, and you see it on Facebook, and that's a normal thing for you to see this water. Like, there's nothing wrong here, right? This is what it was designed for.
I would say yes, in a way. It's designed to spill right here off of this. That's why this week we're calling it the spillway.
Yeah.
Usually we call it the channel.
Okay.
It channels the water to the hydro facility.
Okay.
But no, normally you would never see this. This is a very high water event.
Any concerns or anything that you guys have this time of year that this water is doing this? Are you worried about it? Does it concern you at all, or is it...
There's always concern. I mean, I come in. We have somebody here comes in every day. Even when this happens and it overtops and we're running valves, even on the weekend, somebody stops in at a point, does a walkthrough, checks around. We make sure everything is safe. Now that the water stopped overtopping, the engineers will look it over and check, and we'll compare to pictures that we had a few weeks ago. And as I said, we're doing a rehab project, so they've been doing a lot of comprehensive studies on the dam. They've got some really great mapping from before this last overtopping, so we'll be able to really make some really close comparisons. And I know pretty much whenever there's a rock overturned around here, and I didn't see much of any changes. A little of the old gunite concrete might have been chipped off in here, but as far as any large movement or anything like that, there was nothing.
Okay, what are we looking at here? What's going on with this picture? It says 1913.
Yeah, 1913. It's, what's it say? The corner of Madison Avenue and Franklin Street down in Albany. And it obviously was a very high flood year. And this was before the dam, anything was built. This was back when it was this. Yeah, this is basically, it's not really set up in any sort of timeline. or anything. It's just showing the construction and how it was done and certain times of the building. I mean, when they had this all framed up and ready to start pouring concrete and everything over it, this is the power plant next door, and then it shows it. It's all concrete and bricked up. Those right there are where their gates release. That was the 3 gates that they put in over here at the power plant before all that even started. The dam itself over here, it shows how it was a sluice core. And you can see the big pit in here, and that's the dam that you drove across. As they built it up, they could have barges that would spray high pressured water, and you got these train cars that were bringing material in from the mountain over here, the rocks that they were digging out of the channel. They would bring that up, dump that down. The high pressure hoses would wash all the fines down into the middle, which would created the core of the dam. It built it up to a solid core. Yeah, this shows a picture up here of the original bridge when it had the archways in it, and the guardrails across it were concrete. They were all poured concrete pillars, and it was a beautiful bridge, but it didn't survive the rigors of time.
So a little bit about what's going on, over there behind you. I see some water moving, and it's heading over to the other building. What's happening out the window here?
Well, the water is just going on its normal path down the channel, we'll call it, and going into EJ West over there at the power plant. That's one of Brookfield's hydro facilities. And then it's just being released through that facility down there.
The water that's being released by them, would you say that those guys actually release, I think you said they release more often than you guys do, right? Do they release like every day, or how did?
Yeah, pretty much they release every day. They would, they're pretty much 100% of the Sacandaga's release goes through the hydro facility. Like I said, unless there's situations where they need augmentation or we have flooding situations where we need to release through the dowel valves.
After, just one last question about your end of the release, like after a week from now or whatever, when things kind of get back to normal levels, what would you guys consider a normal level of the Sacandaga Reservoir, like 7?
There is a target elevation. You can look it up on our website, HRBRRD. If you get on that, go to check water levels, and they'll have a target elevation. You click on that, and it'll bring up the target elevation. So as far as a normal level, I wouldn't say there is really any normal level. It goes, like I said, there's a 20-foot change in it per year generally. Full pond, we consider it 768, as they consider that full. The regulations, like I said, through the settlement agreement, have the maximum minimums as far as what time of year, how far they would like it to be down as target. So where they like to have for the target elevations for it. And the engineers do their best to follow the target, as best we can, but situations arise, storms, hurricanes, flooding, like that, they do what they can to prevent.
We had like $50 billion, we could buy this whole place. Can you imagine that's your living room view? You can live in this building, right? I mean, it's small, but wow, what a place.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of rehab inside here now too. Actually, it's old, and we're starting to redo a lot of the electric. Some of the stuff was just too old and it wasn't working good. And we're changing it up. Some of that's our monitoring equipment over there that we use to monitor the wells out on the dam.
In the time that you've worked here, and you lived here, what's your favorite part of this dam, or any portion of any of this? You must have, what's the coolest part to you? What's the neatest part of all this stuff that might be like your favorite thing to tell people about, or to come and look at, or what would you think is your favorite part of this job that you do?
It's things like this right here is when people come up and ask questions that they didn't know exactly what the purpose was. I take it for granted. I've been here my entire life. So, everybody, like you come in, you're saying how beautiful it is to be able to have this as your living room view. Yes, it is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I tell everybody I have the best damn job there is.
I love it. We were making damn jokes all day.
Yeah, there you go. You could just roll with those with this, you know. But growing up here was really special to me. So like, you know, this was my backyard as I grew up.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately from 9/11 on, there's been a lot stricter rules of access and what we allow people to do or go around here like that. But you know, like when I was a kid, we just crawled all over the place around here, and like I said, that's why I know every tree, rock that there is to know here. So if something's strange, it occurs to me immediately.
I know we covered a lot, and you know, probably most all of it, but is there anything else that you think that we should add in this video that we haven't gotten to yet?
A quick interesting fact was that they used to have guard shacks here that were up on the top of the overlook and whatnot, and I believe the employees here, were armed at the time. They had rifles and they had guard shack and a 24-hour guard duty during World War II on plane watch. They were always watching for planes and bombers, and they had models and everything to know what every plane looked like, the silhouettes and everything else. And there's an actual up there with the Army Air Force. That was one of the citations in the corner. It's right up on the wall right there.
Make sure you guys get some good pictures of that. Those two documents there, wherever they are.
So yeah, during the war, this was a watch area that they kept really, I mean, as it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's watched carefully, and we try to keep a good security on it.
What's going on behind you here? There's a lot of water coming out. How much water is coming out, and you know, where's it going? And I know we've been through that a little bit, but what's happening behind you?
We have 3 dow valves open. They run about approximately 2,400 cubic feet per second each. They're releasing now, and we're just trying to get the lake down to more manageable levels. So this water here that we're releasing now is going into Stewart's Pond, which then in turn is released through the Stewart's Dam facility and goes down the Sacandaga River and eventually ends up in the Hudson.
So you were mentioning eagles. You've seen some eagles up here, is that right?
Yeah, probably past 30, 40 years now. The eagles have been coming back, and they're really strong now. And just down the way here, a little ways, there is a big nest on the Stewart's Pond area, and she's been having young there for a few years now. And it's a popular spot for people to go photograph and see the eagles.
We're in a very interesting spot right here with that background going on. I just want to have you, I want to ask you, prior to 1930, you know, I want you to talk a little bit about what was here before 1930. Can you point out, you know, how exactly this all works? You know, what happened here?
We're in the old community of Conklingville, and the old bridge used to be, if you can catch it with your camera, one of the gauges we use is over there. We call that the pond gauge. That is the one that everybody gets the lake elevation off of. Is right that little tiny concrete building there. The original bridge that crossed the Sacandaga River went across right there. It's still underwater there. People dive on it a lot, and it's still there.